All right, so using your Speedball linoleum cutters. So this is the tool that we are going to be using to cut your linoleum. It's kind of an inexpensive, effective tool. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through its use. So first off, I'm kind of dissecting the head here. So you can see it's made out of 3 parts. There's like the housing for that, and then a couple little clips that hold on to your tools or your different bits. So there's these 2 parts, the head, like I said, these 2 parts here kind of clamp together. As you can see, I'm showing you here. And then the little bit is gonna slide in between that clamp, and then that housing is gonna kind of tighten down around it to hold it in place. So most of your bits should be in the end of the tool. It's nice because they're sharp. We want to be able to store these so that you don't cut yourself in any sort of way. And kind of keeps them all contained in one spot. So there's a rounded end and a pointy end on the tool. The rounded end is what goes in that housing there. So you can see how it assembles here. And so this is just me kind of doing that outside of that, and then the tool slips in and out from in between that little gap. So I'm gonna put this all kind of back together and put one of the bits into the head here. You can see it's hard to see on this kind of camera angle, but I'm slipping it in between those two little bits. And once I get that in place, then I just tighten that down to make sure it's secure so that the tool isn't wiggling around, or the bit isn't wiggling around, so that I can carve with it. And then it's really easy to change these out in between stuff, but if they're ever stuck or sticking like this one is doing, it's because there's a little bit of a hang metal on it. So you can see that I might have to tap that out and the parts will fall out. And so that's why it's important to know how to reassemble this if it ever does fall out, or you have to take it apart to get a tool out. So you change out the different bits based off of the sort of marks you're making. So this first one, the number 1, is a really small V gouge, and I like to use this bit. You can see me drawing out the shape here for kind of your finer sort of details. So these are like kind of small marks, little detailed marks. The tools do get smaller than this if you get specialty tools, but that's as small as they get on these little linoleum, Speedball linoleum cutters. Speedball's not the only brand that makes these. There's other companies like Dick Blick and other companies that make linoleum cutters of varying qualities. So you can see that these are making really, really tiny marks, kind of small lines, small marks. It's good for little details and cross-hatching or really thin lines. And then the next bit that I'm gonna pull out here is another V gouge, but a much larger V gouge. So, or I'm sorry, this is a U gouge. So the smaller U gouge. So it has a different shape to it. So your line is gonna look a little bit different depending on the sort of tools you use. So this one's a little bit larger than the small V, but it is still one of the smaller bits. So I'm placing this in the tool holder, or the bit holder, and you can see that the marks are very, very different, a little bit larger just by nature to start, but the same sort of principles apply. I can use this to get a different sort of mark that I need. Then the next one, this is the larger V gouge. So what you can see is basically you can move up into different scale bits to take out larger chunks or larger areas, or to make larger highlights, or to kind of control what a mark looks like. So a U gouge, like I said, gives you a U-shaped mark. A V gouge gives you a V-shaped mark. So it really changes the quality of the line. This one's a little stuck here. So the last one I'm going to show here is the much larger U gouge, which is typically good for clearing out large areas or large spaces. So here's the shape of that tool. It's the largest of the bits that come standard with this little linoleum cutter. And so I can use this to take out really big spaces or big chunks and make progress on carving a lot faster. I typically like to use this as a last minute tool, but also if I'm trying to get some larger expressive marks. This last tool is something that I'll show you on the carving basics, but when you're not using the tools, you should probably keep them all in the end of the linoleum cutter so you don't stab yourself grabbing this out of something, and then it makes sure that nothing sharp is going to grab you. The next video is the lino cutting basics.